Assalamualaikum. My name is Uzair Sayyid Ahmed. I am Musalli at Sabireen for the last 12 years. I've been very actively involved in the community. I want to get the record straight because there's a lot of potential for people to discredit what we're doing or what happened. But the reason I'm doing this is because I think it's the right thing to do. I'm deeply troubled by what happened on Friday, and I'm not afraid to speak out.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Amina Ishaq. I have been a ISGH member for the past 10 years and am currently a lifetime member. I was actually not planning to attend the Jummah prayer at Sabireen. However, I was informed of the pro-Palestinian candidate not being allowed to speak when she had been confirmed to speak at the masjid. So when I found this out, I started driving towards the masjid thinking, okay, I'm going to try to help out. So I contacted an active volunteer and I had a discussion with him asking him, the pro-Palestinian candidate is not able to speak. Can we try to get her in? She had gotten the okay to do so. And at that moment, we got into a little disagreement about it. And he stated that he would not be able to do that. So he's like, you can come to the masjid, do whatever you need, but she will not be able to probably speak.
My name is Michelle McKeska. I am a mayoral candidate in the upcoming Sugarland election. I was invited to Sabireen to speak after Jummah prayer. Myself and several other candidates were going to be allowed to speak. Once I got there, the person who had invited me told me that they had changed their mind. They were not going to let me speak. Obviously, I was disappointed, but since they weren't going to let me speak inside, I still had my flyers, and it was permissible to pass out my flyers outside in the foyer. And so that's where I was, and that's what I was doing.
My wife had emailed, for the record, the Sabireen leadership on the 1st of February, communicating to them that we feel very strongly about the idea of Naushad Karmali coming to the masjid, because we have seen what he's done with us at the city council. He does not represent Muslim values. He seconded the motion that was passed to silence us for speaking about Palestine or making a request for prayer for Palestine. He has smirked at us, scowled at us when the Muslim women were being escorted out. He's called the cops on hijabi women as backups. The city council is placing spies in the WhatsApp groups. The idea of him on the member was triggering, because we are inviting our abuser to our dining table and giving him the head of the table.
So at that moment, I just told the brother, I was like, okay, well, if the Zionist normalizing candidate is allowed to speak at my masjid, I will be outside protesting, and that's my right as a congregant. So then once I got to the masjid, I parked, and I had brought my banner. We had been protesting at city council for over 15 months, and we held up that banner. So I wanted to hold that up at the masjid so he could see it. So I prayed my salah. I went and I held up the banner with the other organizer. There was congregants coming out of the masjid, and they were listening to all of this. I started educating and projecting my voice loud so they could hear that he is a Zionist normalizing candidate. We do not need to vote for him. I was protesting him speaking inside of the masjid that I had made sujood in, a masjid that I had been coming to with my children, that I had volunteered at. It was something in me that I could not stop myself, so I was trying to educate the brothers. He was saying that he would be the first Muslim mayor of Sugarland and that we should all support him because he's a Muslim. However, he has been working for the past 15 to 16 months against Muslim interests, against Palestinian interests. And we had been seeing that every single city council meeting, which is every 2 weeks for the past 15 months. We did not miss one meeting.
He's speaking as a Muslim candidate, and he's being presented as a Muslim candidate who represents our values, telling people that this is the Muslim candidate we have to back. I couldn't live with myself for not having spoken up to create the awareness that this is not true. I'll set the record straight, because I only spoke for 5 seconds. I had my hand raised. I did not interrupt him. I let him speak and complete, and then I said,
shame on you for asking for our vote. What you've done.
You're an Israeli.
Outside. Stop talking. We'll escort you with the police. This is the house of Allah. Go. That's it. Thank you.
You should be ashamed for asking for our votes, given what your stance has been on Gaza and Palestine. And my son said, you are pro-Israeli. That's all the words that came out of my mouth. And we left right away. It's not like we lingered or we did anything. And this is troubling to me because it's not the first time this has happened. The president of ISGH, MJ Khan, was protested and heckled inside Masjid-e-Sabireen after Jummah Salah, where a Musalli stood up and challenged him. And that challenge went on for 2 minutes, and it was very ceremoniously handled, and he was dismissed. So the idea that anybody speaking from the member cannot be questioned is troubling to me, because the only one-way communication that happens on the member is the khutbah. And if you are standing there, you can be questioned. In our masjid, I can question the ISGH president for 2 minutes and not have any backlash. But I can't question Naushad Karmali. He is above the ISGH president. What happened after that, right after, was Brother Fuad came to my son and said, "You shouldn't do that. I could have you and your father arrested." It's very traumatizing for an 11-year-old to be told this by an elder, because all he's saying is calling out a soft Zionist on the stage of the member. It's problematic to me, because what is the message we are saying, right? If you have a problem with my mode of protest, you talk to me directly. I mean, it's so traumatizing to the kid and troubling to me that you are threatening a child, 11-year-old, with the arrest of him and his father from a masjid. And this is so reminiscent of the tactics that the IDF uses to intimidate the kids in the West Bank. And to see it happen to my child in the masjid is troubling. And it's something that I am deeply offended by, and I don't take lightly. My child was being threatened. Sister Amna was just handcuffed, and the commotion is happening behind me. So I thought that's more important for me to address right now, because I could see her crying profusely.
As I was projecting my voice to educate the brothers as they were walking outside, I was telling them facts. I was telling them facts about what had happened at city council for the past year, that he is not with the Muslims. Please do not vote for him. All of a sudden, these 2 cops came and they said, "Ma'am, you have to leave." And I was like, "I'm not going to leave. This is my mosque." He said, "You're trespassing." And I was like, "No, I'm not trespassing. This is my masjid. I just prayed salah."
After Jummah finished, I, get up, I'm about to leave, and I see Sister Amna there, holding a sign, and she's saying, "Hey, Naushad gets to speak, and Michelle does not." Now, this is for the Sugarland City Council mayor, Mr. Race, and I'm like, all right, well, that's not allowed. As a 501c3 organization, every candidate has to be allowed to speak. You can't pick and choose, otherwise you risk losing your C3 status. So I go inside and I talk to Fawad Kochinwala, and I said, "Hey, there's a candidate outside, can she speak?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure, just bring her in." And I was like, all right, cool, yeah. Then I go outside. As I'm, there, the cops are escalating what's happening with Amna.
She was speaking loudly to the men, telling them one of the candidates who was there that was speaking had actively silenced our voices at city council, that he had allied with Zionists. Then I saw the police approach her very quickly. I was concerned that the police were going to get aggressive, and so I went over to make sure that Amina was okay. At that point, I heard the police officer say she was trespassing, to which she responded,
"I'm an ISGH member. I don't have to leave." And then the cops kept insisting, "Well, they want you gone." And I said, who wants me gone? He kept saying, "They want you gone." And I was like, "Who? Let me speak to the AD. And you will have to arrest me, but I will not leave, because this is my masjid." Right when I said that, the cop next to me, he's like, "Okay, well, you're under arrest." And he grabbed my hands and he put the cuffs on me.
At that point, this is by instinct, I just reached my hand out to grab Amina's arm, because I obviously did not want her to be arrested. And then the police looked at me and said, "I will arrest you as well," if I tried to interfere with the arrest. And it was at this point that thankfully we had some other people who were speaking up and trying to de-escalate the situation.
If they're doing good work for the pro-Palestine movement, them being in jail does not help anybody right now. And so my priority at that point was to make sure that they did not get arrested.
We were able to tell the police officer that we would comply, that Amina would leave, and at that point he removed the cuffs.
And so once the officers, take the handcuffs off, one guy in a white shirt was like,
"I'm the management. I didn't say anything. I didn't say arrest her.
You don't have to tell me to arrest her. I don't need your permission.
Yeah, well, I'm one of the management here."
Okay, well, someone else told him they need to
the cops pointed to 2 specific individuals, a guy named Tamim and a guy named Wahab. they were saying, they gave us permission, but then when we spoke to them, they said, no, we didn't say arrest her. We said, tell her to get off the property. And so, yeah, I truly don't know if they're lying here, like if Tamim or Wahab are lying, or if the cops are lying. But what I do know is that the cops did escalate that much faster than it had to be.
And the only reason I was there so proudly, like this much emotion, was thinking that I am safe in this space. This space is my space. I cannot be arrested in my masjid.
So after Amina is uncuffed and I'm assured that she's okay, the man who invited me to come speak came up to me and said, hurry, go into the room. They've changed their mind. Now you can go speak. At this point, Juma prayer was long over. The two male candidates had already said their piece and were outside. But I ran as fast as I could into the women's section, and I was allowed to speak from the mic for a minute. At that point, the worship center was pretty empty because most people had already left by then.
Then one brother said to me, why were you being violent? This is not the way to talk. You should go inside and talk to this city council member. And then I was trying to explain myself that I had been doing that for 15 months at city council every other week. And I want the Muslim community to remember that I was safer in a space that was not mine. But I was unsafe in a space that I had every right to be in.
Was walking to my truck, and then halfway to my truck, I hear commotion. So I see a tall, big guy scolding a woman and really speaking to her in very strong manner. And I see over 100 men all just sitting there studying. Then I immediately start trying to calm things down and seeing how he was really scolding her. Say, hey brother, calm down. He said, she's attacking me, she's accusing me this, accusing me with that. And then I said, can we just, what happened? And then people said, well, she was just about to be arrested and handcuffed. And then I asked him, who called the police on her? You called the police? Of course. No, I didn't. In fact, I allowed her to come to the masjid, which is really shocking to me. In what capacity a man have the right to permit and not permit people to come to the masjid? The whole situation could have been diffused so easily. She doesn't like whatever was happening in the masjid. Fine, let her speak.
Amna was doing the right thing. If they weren't going to let Michelle speak inside, they weren't going to allow people to address their feelings about Noshad. This is the only recourse she has, which is to let people know the truth. Were people upset that she was loud? I mean, sure, but that's not wrong. Are people upset she had a sign? Again, nothing illegal, nothing wrong. She's just doing her thing.
I've seen some merchants outside the masjid, they're louder than she was. I didn't see him calling police on them.
I was talking to Tamim, Wahab, some of the other uncles. I was telling them hey, let's, the cops tried to arrest Amna, they escalated. And one uncle was like, well, they should arrest her. She's causing a disturbance in the house of Allah. And I'm just I don't think you understand the gravity here. If you call the cops on somebody protesting, you are potentially putting their lives in danger.
I don't understand what kind of community call police on each other. You call police just because you heard her saying something you don't like?
And this is why it hurts so much to me, because Sabireen is home. It's where my kids feel at home. The reason I'm so troubled by this is because I never imagined that this would ever happen in any masjid, let alone Sabireen, because Sabireen is better than this. We know this to be better than this. And that's the message I want to give the community, that there is some khair in all of this. Allahu khairu makirin. So the people who are wrong, you have to do right by them, and right by them with the correct niyyah, that we want to make this right. I am deeply hurt. I would never have thought that this is something that would happen in Sabireen to a Muslim sister. Sabireen has led by example, and this is a huge letdown that has hurt the sentiments of the community. And I am with you here. I am as hurt as anyone else is here by all these incidents. So we need some sincerity in doing right by the people who are wronged, and really looking into this to come up with better policies. They can't be sweeping under the rug here. We have to hold accountable. Why did this happen? This will make us, inshallah, stronger. That's the hope. this is come to a point and to a halt where we will want to work towards something better. And there's a petition out there making a request of what should be done. Inshallah, there is light at the end of the tunnel. We'll come out stronger after all of this. And there is hikmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all of this.